Okay, now, the very first thing I always recommend is for you guys to label what your A value, B value, and your C value are. So my A value is the number 2, the B value is my -1, and my C value is -55. This should always be step number 1. This way it eliminates a lot of mistakes coming up. All right, we're going to plug those numbers in to the quadratic formula. Where it says -b, I need to plug in a -1, but it's -1. What could I put there instead of -1?
Positive
No,
-1.
+1,
Oh.
because negative changes to plus positive, so that's really a +1 there. Plus or minus square root. Now it says b squared. What am I going to put instead of b squared? -1 squared, and I always put my -1 in parentheses. That way I don't make any mistakes when I type it into my calculator. So -1 squared minus 4 times a, and my a value is 2, times c, and my c value is -55, all divided by 2 times a, and again my a value is 2. Now from here, I bring down my 1 plus or minus and my square root symbol, and the bottom of my fraction is 2 times 2. I'm just going to go ahead and write 4. Now I'm going to zoom in on this. What I am circling in black right now is called my discriminant. That is not the square root symbol, that's what's underneath the square root symbol. So will you guys please type in what's circled in black perfectly and hit enter. All right, the discriminant is 441. Okay. Now I wrote it in black so that stands out to you. The discriminant is not the square root of 441, it is just 441. From here, remember, we do not want to round off, we want exact answers. Can someone tell me what the square root of 441 is? All right, from here, we are going to split that up into 2 problems. 1 plus 21 divided by 4, and 1 minus 21 divided by 4. On the left side, 1 plus 21 is 22, and 22 divided by 4 is 5.5. And 1 minus 21 is -20, and -20 divided by 4 is -5. So there are my 2 x-intercepts. Step number 1 is to always list our a value, b value, and c value. A is 3, b is also 3, and c is -18. So when I plug it into the quadratic formula, -b is going to be a -3. Plus or minus square root b squared, I'm going to write 3 squared, minus 4 times a is also 3, times c is -18, all divided by 2 times a, and again a is 3. From here, I'm going to bring down my -3 plus or minus square root symbol. On the bottom of my fraction is 2 times 3, which is 6. But if you guys would, type in what's under the radical, not the radical symbol. Type in what's under the radical and tell me what the discriminant is. All right, the discriminant is 225. Now from here, we need to see what the square root of 225 is. Is it a decimal that's never ending, irrational, or is it a number that we can use? And it's 15. So I have -3 plus or minus 15 divided by 6. From here, we split up into 2 problems. We have -3 plus 15 divided by 6 and -3 minus 15 divided by 6. On the left, -3 plus 15 is 12. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And on the right, negative 3 minus 15 is negative 18, and negative 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. So our two x-intercepts are 2 and negative 3. On number 3, the first step again is always to label my a value as 7, b value is negative 8, and c value is negative 5. Once I establish my a, b, and c, I'm going to plug those into the quadratic formula. Instead of negative b, negative 8, I'm just going to rewrite that as positive 8, plus or minus square root of b squared is negative 8 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 7, times c, which is negative 5, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 7. From here, I'm going to simplify it. I bring down my 8 plus or minus square root, and the bottom of my fraction is 2 times 7, which is 14. My discriminant is 204. Because the square root of 204 is an irrational number, we need to simplify square root of 204. We need two numbers that multiply to give us 204, and that is going to be 4 times 51. And the square root of 4 is 2 times the square root of 51. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to rewrite this 8 plus or minus 2 square root of 51, all divided by 14. All right, from here, on the top, I need to factor out the most possible. Between the 8 and the 2, I would ask myself, what's the largest number that goes into 8 and 2? And it's a 2. Well, 2 times 4 gives me the 8, and 2 times a square root of 51 gives me 2 square root of 51. Do you guys now see my fraction 2 over 14? Yeah. 2 over 14 reduces to 1 over 7. But do I really need a 1 in front of my parentheses? No. So I would just write 4 plus or minus the square root of 51, all divided by 7. That is my answer, simplified, because we didn't want to round off. All right, with number 4, again, the first thing I always do is I list my a value as 8, my b value is negative 2, and my c value is 5. Then I plug it into the quadratic formula. Negative b is actually negative 2, which is positive 2. Plus or minus b squared, I'm going to put negative 2 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 8. Then I'm going to bring down my 2 plus or minus square root. On the bottom, 2 times 8 is 16. And my discriminant is a negative 156. Because it says a square root of a negative 156, as of right now, we can't solve that. Now later on in life, you guys will find a way around that. But for right now, we cannot do the square root of 156. So that means we cannot finish this answer. So our answer is no solutions. Now, to give you an example as a graph, imagine we graphed one and it looked like this. And I said, looking at this graph, what are my x-intercepts? What would you say? There are no x-intercepts. Well, this is what it looks like mathematically. You got a negative square root. Okay, so you can't figure out what the square root of negative 156 is, so that means there are no x-intercepts. There are no solutions.